Live. I think we're live. We're live. We're live. How is everyone doing? Good to see you. It's how are you doing? Well, first of all, how are you doing, Jessica?
I'm doing great. This has been a great crypto news week. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I've been a lot better since yesterday. That was good news, wasn't it?
Great news.
Yeah.
And I actually found out through CoinBureau Instagram. That was the first pop-up that I saw. So, you know, Guy, you never sleep. You're always on the ball, and it was a great update.
What other source of news could you possibly need? Yeah, this was great news yesterday. So it was kind of early evening in Dubai. I was sitting down getting ready for dinner, and suddenly we have this news about Grayscale winning its case against the SEC. I'd heard a couple of rumors. I don't know if you'd heard anything before, but I'd heard a couple of rumors that a decision was pending. And me being the sort of hardened cynic after too long in crypto that I am, I was sort of like, yeah, sure, we'll see about that. And much to my surprise, not only did we have a result, but it was a positive one as well.
Yeah. It was pretty remarkable because on last week's NFA Live, we talked about this possibly being a September catalyst for some maybe good Bitcoin news.
Yeah.
And it did not even come up that it could possibly be a late August news story. So, you know, last Wednesday we came on the live for those that were watching, and we were saying, oh, you know, it's quite a quiet news day. So we thought we'd pop in and touch base with you all. Hopefully next week will be a little bit more exciting. And we've got a lot of topics to cover today.
We have got a few things to talk about. Yeah, a lot of them good as well, which is nice. Not all of them. There are a couple of troubling things worth mentioning. This is crypto after all. But first of all, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining another Wednesday live stream. We're trying to make these kind of regular, aren't we? I think Wednesday, it's a good sort of time to pick up, isn't it? Middle of the week, see how everyone's first half of the week is going, and wish everyone the best for the end of it. Lots of nice comments as usual. Nice to join you live. Thank you, Mark. It's good of you to join us. And we've got people all over joining us. Hello from Italy. Someone from Salzburg, Austria. You lived in Austria, didn't you?
No, but I worked for Bitpanda, which was based in Austria.
Okay.
And I was thinking of moving, but then Dubai called me. What can I say? The sunshine was too tempting.
You didn't fancy sticking around for the skiing?
I'm not a skier, to be honest with you. I think it would be more of a risky move.
I avoid skiing at all costs. My Katie, my wife, is very fond of it, but I just know. You know when you just have a sixth sense about something. I know if I ever step on a ski slope, I'll be carried off it. I'll fall over, break my arm, leg, neck, something like that. Anyhow, we're wandering off topic. Someone else is Zabiula from Afghanistan. How about that?
Wow.
Afghanistan. I'm not sure. I can't remember the last viewer we had from Afghanistan. And sunny Torquay as well.
Cornwall, beautiful place. Torquay is Cornwall?
Is Torquay Cornwall? I think Torquay is Devon.
I'm sorry
maybe.
if I offended you. If you're from Torquay, please correct me. I'm from Wales, and we never really get outside, which is why I got that wrong.
I mean, you might be right. I think it's Devon, but then it could be Dorset. Who knows? From Maine, from Canada, from Sri Lanka. Someone says going off piste. Yes, quite true. Hi from Sweden. It's Devon. Okay, was I Devon?
You were right. You did say Devon.
Okay. Torquay in Devon. Hello from Belgium. Someone else from Canada. Brilliant. Hertfordshire. Oh, you might be down the road from my parents. They're in Hertfordshire. Scotland. Wonderful. Brilliant. Reading, UK. Chin up, Danny. From the Netherlands, more from Scotland. Uganda. Fantastic. Brighton. Wow. Okay, this is great. Well, yeah, like I say, thanks everyone for joining. We had some good news in crypto yesterday. Obviously, this was the decision in the case against Grayscale versus the SEC. So just to give people a little bit of background on that, this refers to Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust, this GBTC vehicle that they've got. Obviously, they've been wanting to turn it into a spot Bitcoin ETF because that is what everyone wants to do. Everyone wants to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF. But the SEC, in true SEC style, said no. And so Grayscale, I think this was last year, but I remember Grayscale suing them and thinking, wow, that's kind of, that's a bold move. it's nice to see it going in the other direction. It usually seems to be the SEC suing people. So I must say, I kind of applauded Grayscale at the time for suing them, but I didn't really give them much of a hope. So this is sort of good news, all the better for being kind of unexpected as well.
Absolutely. And Grayscale was the first Bitcoin trust, and it's been a really remarkable, the size of Grayscale as well, $17 billion trust. So this is a really big win for the crypto space. This is a really big step forward when it comes to a Bitcoin ETF, and we're being that one step closer, which is a very exciting time for the space.
Yeah, it is. And was it you who was telling me earlier? Because I must say I didn't know this, or if I did, I'd forgotten just how much Bitcoin Grayscale actually holds.
Yes.
Okay.
So Grayscale Bitcoin Trust controls more than 635,000 Bitcoin. That's 4.5 times the size of MicroStrategy.
Wow. Wow. Because when you told me that, I was like, that really caught me by surprise. I've always assumed sort of MicroStrategy was one of the top ones out there. So yeah, that tells you just how big a deal this really is. Because I mean, I guess if you look at the flip side to it, then if Grayscale had lost, that was potentially really, that would be pretty grim for the industry. So there was a lot riding on this decision, not just for kind of crypto as a whole, but also, of course, for DCG, for Digital Currency Group, of which Grayscale is one of its, if not its biggest subsidiary. Now, obviously, DCG is kind of in all sorts of trouble at the moment.
Yes.
Although we did have some DCG news as well. They had a good day yesterday. They reached an agreement with the creditors of Genesis.
Yeah.
And they had this ruling for Grayscale as well. So Barry Silbert, I think, must be feeling pretty pleased today. But what I do gather is that a lot of the Genesis creditors aren't too happy with this deal. So I don't think this whole sort of Genesis DCG thing, I think this is kind of far from over. Like, it's still got a bit left to run. Okay.
Because I was looking at CoinDesk and some of the news that was coming out regarding DCG, and it's saying that Genesis creditors recoveries could be from 70 to 90% in USD equivalent.
Okay. I mean, I suppose that's not. There have been worse deals out there on the table, haven't there?
Yeah.
But I guess we are still talking. In many cases, I mean, Genesis is going to have some pretty wealthy creditors. So even to take a hit like that, you're still talking millions and millions of dollars. So I guess it makes sense. H. Wood says, I like this comment. Every time I hear about Grayscale, something big happened next, either good or bad. Yeah, that's very much the way it is at the moment. If you hear that word Grayscale, hold on tight and pray.
Cross your fingers, guys. It's either going to be good news or bad news. But today was good news. That's why I'm wearing green today. We're celebrating the market movements in response to the news.
I love the fact you've put so much thought into it.
I mean, you've got to celebrate when markets are up, and a win is a win, guys. And so also the Grayscale news is also kind of an indication of what we could see next when it comes to the other kind of firms that are waiting to see if they can go ahead with a Bitcoin ETF. And now it kind of feels like, rather than the race of the, David and Goliath of the SEC versus Grayscale, it's now like, okay, well, if Grayscale does get approval for a Bitcoin ETF, because that's still not yet fully 100% confirmed.
Yeah.
But if they do get that approval, when will that be? When will we hear from the likes of kind of BlackRock, Van Eck, ARK Invest, and which of those will come first? Because it is kind of whoever's first to the race will get a majority piece of the pie in some terms.
Yeah, and of course it was fascinating to see, wasn't it, after BlackRock's application came out and kind of everyone else kind of scrambling to get theirs in as well. Degen Tullman, who is Rick Wilson apparently, points out in the comments, it only means the reason the SEC gave was terrible. It doesn't mean anything is approved, and that's very true. Yeah. Well done, Degen, or Rick as you're otherwise known. That's important to point out. I think what this does, I think, is it certainly kind of opens the door. It means that this ETF narrative that we were all getting very, very excited about a few weeks ago, like, just a few days ago, I think people were saying, well, that seems to have really died down. The SEC is obviously kind of dragging its feet on approving them, which I think that's still the case.
Yeah.
But obviously, this win for Grayscale kind of really, I think it certainly moves the case for an ETF closer. So we've still got to wait. Now, you sent me, Jessica, something, quite a useful chart, I think, somewhere, which I've now...
Yes. So, and what we'll do is we'll share it on the screen just so when we'll talk you through it, because it was kind of interesting. It's giving an indication of the other Bitcoin ETF applications and the deadlines that are coming up for them. And there's quite a few dates that are the 1st and the 2nd of September for some of the issuers that have applied for a Bitcoin ETF. So we're going to share our screen and just have a little look through it, because in my opinion, this looks like it's a pretty interesting indication of like, have we got potentially more green lights or good news this week? And we'll definitely have to be on standby to keep an eye out and see what's going to be going on with this and potentially how it could impact the market.
Yeah. And you see, I mean, James Seyfarth has sort of helpfully put this all in green. I mean, I think there is a chance. I've seen a lot of speculation about this, and I think probably the realistic option in my eyes, knowing the SEC, or having seen how the SEC operates for a few years now, I still kind of think that they will probably try and push this as far back as possible, which is why this kind of this final deadline one is all sort of quite interesting, because it's all coming. These final deadlines are all in the early part of next year. I think the latest is sort of around the 22nd of April. So this means
interesting time of year.
I wonder what else is happening around the 24th of April. Yes. So what this could mean is that, we could, shortly before the halving, we could also, and that's the other thing I want to say as well, that I think a lot of people have speculated that if we do see an approval, then they'll probably just approve them all. And I think there's a fairly good chance of that. I imagine they're all pretty similar. They're all sort of following the whatever the magic formula that BlackRock laid out. So I think there could be a good chance that we could suddenly see a whole slew of spot Bitcoin ETF approvals hit the floor just as just in time for the halving. Yeah, which would be pretty interesting, you have to say.
I was listening to Bloomberg yesterday, and they were talking about, who would this be good news for? And in my mind, I was thinking, well, the retail investors, this would be great news for us, those that have been holding Bitcoin. And they've said, like, well, the institutions, because they really just want an easier, more accessible way to get into Bitcoin. So BlackRock, which is the highest regarded by the institutional investors, they'll be the ones that are kind of like, well, excellent, this has gone ahead, and we'll be able to enter into the market in a more regulated way. So it's really interesting to see how this will play out, because those that do follow the markets on kind of a wider crypto market span will always be looking to where the institutions are heading and how they're looking to move forward. So let's wait and see, guys.
Yeah, it's good news. Again, lots of very wise heads in the comments today, which is great. I mean, there always are wise heads in the comments, but Deep Star says, with Grayscale, when things are appealed like this and remitted back to a lower court or authority to be reconsidered, they often find another reason to reject it with better reasoning. Yeah, that I think there's definitely a case for that. And let's be honest, the SEC could still appeal. That's still very much on the table as well. So we can't get too ahead of ourselves. That is the appeal or the potential appeal by the SEC is sort of one of the reasons why I think the whole thing could get pushed right back to right to that final deadline to spring. And of course, although I'm sure Gary Gensler would like nothing less than to have to approve a whole load of Bitcoin ETF applications just before the halving. I'm sure he would really hate that. And that just makes me want it more. So
it's going to be a busy few months for our good friend Gary. He'll have a pile of applications on his desk.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, not a good day for Gary. Sorry about that, Gary. Sorry to hear that. Yes, lots of good news around that. Now, I wanted to, I thought someone who had a good take on this was Paul Greywell, who is Coinbase's chief legal officer. I did have a quote all sort of lined up from him, a little clip from the Bloomberg interview that he did, but I've lost my bookmark on that. But basically, he said something pretty smart, I thought, which was basically that the SEC, maybe they should just sort of take a bit of a step back, reconsider this policy of regulation by enforcement. I think that's very wise. Like they had that ruling in the Ripple case, which is obviously still ongoing, and now they've had this. So they've had two big L's in the last few weeks. That would say to me, probably they need to reconsider their approach. So let's hope they do.
Yeah, take a look at how to re-regulate the market and come at an approach where they actually can probably work much better. Well, we know they can work much better with cryptocurrency entities and entities that do involve cryptocurrencies in some way. And it's just how they can move forward in a way that's better for the industry, saves everyone some time and money as well, because these back and forth cannot be cheap from a legal perspective. It's pretty remarkable, actually, when you think about it.
Must be absolutely eating up money. Yes, I've got a quote here from him. The SEC should take a break and, quote, reflect on why its approach to regulate this market hasn't worked. Yeah, absolutely spot on, I think. And I just want to read out this quote from the judge as well. This is Judge Naomi Rao. Quote, the denial of Grayscale's proposal was arbitrary and capricious because the commission failed to explain its different treatment of similar products. We therefore grant Grayscale's petition and vacate the order. Great. Eat that, Gary. So yeah, fantastic. And as I say, so potentially, well, it's very good news, potentially more good news to come on the ETF front, though, as I say, I think we should be wary of celebrating that too quickly. And of course, as I said earlier, it's also good news for DCG as well. Kind of gives them a bit of breathing space. I do wonder the extent to which sort of DCG, I think probably DCG going bankrupt is unlikely, but it's still got a tough few months ahead of it. I wonder whether that's kind of been priced into the market and everyone's just like, yes, another big crypto company in trouble. Tell me something I don't know. But yeah, so I think to close this particular bit on, this doesn't guarantee approval. This doesn't mean that a spot Bitcoin ETF is going to get waved through tomorrow, but it does certainly move us a lot closer.
Yeah, one step closer. And like you said, when news does break and we do hear any more, we will be updating you guys as and when it happens.
Yeah. Should we have a quick look at the market as well and see how that's doing as a result?
Yes. So as you guys will have guessed, there was no surprise that we did see a pretty significant jump in the markets on the back of the news. We saw kind of Bitcoin rallying over 7% on the back of the news, up to just over $28,000. We also saw some kind of interesting movements as well. So we saw a Bitcoin Cash rally of almost 15%, which was pretty significant. We saw shares of Coinbase gain 14.9%. I'm guessing because they're also back and forward with the SEC, and it's giving an optimistic indication perhaps of things to come. So it was quite an interesting time for the markets.
Yeah. Bitcoin Cash rallying is an odd one. I always wonder whether that's people mistakenly buying Bitcoin Cash instead of the real Bitcoin. But surely that mistake doesn't happen anymore. Surely not in a bear market.
The crypto noobs that are not entirely sure, or people that are just expecting, Bitcoin's already kind of reacted to the news. Let's move it into alts and what?
Yeah.
What other alternative or Bitcoin forks can I move into?
Yeah, who knows what is going through people's minds when they do something like that. But yeah, it's nice to see some green across the markets. I mean, as you would have seen from that Bitcoin chart, it hasn't sort of wholly erased the losses that we saw recently. That's it's still pretty tough out there, but it certainly makes a nice change, doesn't it? Okay, so we've talked about Grayscale and DCG. We talked about that win for Grayscale. We talked about its impact on the market. What else is happening out there, Jessica?
So one of the trending coins that we're looking at the moment on CoinMarketCap, if you open it, number one is actually PEPE, which is one of the other talking points that we have today. So as you may or may not have seen, and we'll give you a little run through, we did see news of some rogue PEPE devs that had rugged and
Yeah.
pulled out quite a significant amount of tokens. $15 million worth of tokens apparently have been taken out of the PEPE ecosystem from the developers, which is a pretty remarkable feat of news.
Yeah. So this was a few days ago. So 15 million dollars, which I think was about 16 trillion tokens.
Trillion with a T, yes.
Trillion with a T. And I think it was some of the devs, wasn't it? Allegedly. And I think there was this issue with the multi-sig. It needed apparently I think it was three of four. And then they unlocked the multi-sig, as it were, transferred all these 16 trillion tokens to exchanges to sell them, and then I think went back and sort of deleted themselves from the multi-sig and basically sort of removed themselves from the project entirely to sort of, I guess, kind of cover their tracks. There you have it in the starkest possible terms, an argument for decentralization.
Yeah. This is one of those things that really underlined to me. It's like, this is not necessarily a crypto problem. This is a people problem. And this is unfortunately for a lot of people that have been holding the token, there was a pretty significant impact in price on the back of this.
Yeah.
But it's bad actors in the space that are coming in and just disrupting the crypto ecosystems. And it's very frustrating for everyone that's in the space when we see this kind of news.
Mind you, though, do you think many of those PEPE investors were sort of lying awake at night worrying about the project's relative lack of decentralization? If only it would decentralize more, I'd be more confident in the 13 trillion PEPE tokens that I hold. Rob, welcome, Rob. By the way, Digital Asset News. Rob is watching. Rob, I've got some bad news for you, I'm afraid. I am going to be back on NFA Live tomorrow. I know Jessica did a wonderful job of standing in for me last week, but I don't want people to get used to having her on and then basically lose my spot. So I'm going to be back on NFA Live. I'm sorry, Rob. There's nothing you can say or do. But Jessica will be back by popular demand, I'm sure, in the future. But you'll have to put up with me for NFA Live. And I think, Rob, we're on your channel tomorrow. I think we're on Rob's channel. Yeah, because you were on Ben was hosting last week, wasn't it? Okay. Rob, see you then. Okay, and people asking, can we see both of you? I think that would be overkill. I think there is such a thing as too much Coin Bureau.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we are behind the scenes. So when you do tune into a live, there will be sometimes one of us in the StreamYard just checking how things are going, maybe adding some questions and some prompts. So we're both there. It's just one is holistically there.
One is there in spirit. Rob says, sorry, Guy, we fired you. Oh, well, that frees up my Thursdays, I suppose, doesn't it? Lots of people saying in the comments that they'd like you back, Jessica, but it's not going to happen, I'm afraid.
Thanks, guys.
You can't just fire me like that, Rob.
But Guy is technically my boss, so let's not do it too much because he might kick me out.
Jessica, I'm sorry, it's not working. You've got to go. Galaxy Nick points out something that I'm sure everyone in the comments is thinking about, and that's, Jessica, that your laptop sticker game is weak compared to mine.
I have always thought this, and let's have a yes. Yours is very impressive. Yours is full degen mode. Mine's still
pristine. You need
TradFi. Terrible. I'm
Jessica
kidding,
and
guys,
her TradFi laptop. God, help us. Yes. So what we were talking about PEPE, weren't we? I did notice in the aftermath of that someone bought the dip. I mean, I'm sure lots of people bought the dip on PEPE, but this guy spent over $500,000 buying the dip on PEPE. So that was interesting. And when I sort of looked into it, I think it was Cointelegraph did a good story about it. And this guy apparently had spent 280 ETH on PEPE back in June. So is basically a sort of mega PEPE whale. So people were buying the dip on that PEPE shit show. Anyhow, so there we are. There we have it, folks. When it comes to meme coins, when it comes to the dangers of centralization, that is what can happen. But like I say, I'm not sure any of the PEPE community particularly cared. But maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. Panda Pie says, "Why are we still talking about PEPE?" Okay, fair enough. Guy's laptop looks like he nicked it off a schoolgirl. Oh, that's D-Gen Tormu again. Rick, you were doing a great job, and now you've blotted your copybook. Okay, so what else are we going to talk about? What else is on the list for today?
So there was one bit of not real news, but it was something that I saw on crypto Twitter that gave me a little boost of optimism today. And it was actually a couple that got married. And it reminded me, because I know you've recently had your wedding back in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And as wedding gifts, they gave each of their guests a copy of the Bitcoin Standard. And I thought that was a very cool wedding gift.
Yeah.
A little sprinkle of crypto education. And I thought that was quite a nice little bit of, in a bear market, this is the time to share to your family and friends a little bit of information on crypto. I'm not sure if you get asked by your normal non-degen friends about crypto in the industry, and you kind of sit down and take some time out and help them invest.
Well, do you know, it's a good kind of bellwether of the state of the market, because at the moment, none of my sort of non-degen, non-crypto friends are talking to me about crypto at all. I haven't got any text coming through. Hey, Guy, what do you think about this or that? So that's how I know that we're still very much in a bear market. As soon as those questions start coming back, and people start sending me the tickers of sort of random altcoins and stuff, followed by several question marks, that's when we know we're back on.
I've been asked by 3 friends this week about Bitcoin and how to invest, and I think it might be people that are kind of were on the sidelines in the last bull market. And it must be the case that the Grayscale news that we did see yesterday, we did see that it got some mainstream media and some kind of TradFi news coverage attention. And it does seem like curiosity is starting to pick up. And with Bitcoin, which is always a pleasure to talk about rather than some of the smaller meme coins that are on the market.
Yeah,
I'll gladly oblige.
So where did you say this wedding was? Do you know where?
In the UK.
Oh, it was in the UK.
In the UK, yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure what would have happened if Katie and I had handed out copies of the Bitcoin Standard to our wedding guests. I think a fair few of them would have just smacked me around the head with it. But you never know. We must also do maybe next week's live stream. We should do some more book recommendations as well. Yeah. There's always good books to read about crypto and many other things. Okay, so that was, well, there you are, folks. If any of you out there are thinking about getting married and just wondering what on earth you're going to give your guests, what better than the Bitcoin Standard? Thanks for that, Jessica.
Or maybe some more crypto books. We will cover some more crypto books in next live, because one of the amazing things about the Coin Bureau office is there is a huge range of crypto and financial informative books. So I can borrow them occasionally from time to time. It's like my own crypto library. It's amazing. You've done a great job collecting them.
Thanks. Well, I put them in the background of videos, and it makes me, it makes me look cleverer than I am. So there we are. Okay, right. What else is on the list? So we've talked about PEPE. Should we talk about X and X Twitter, and what it's up to at the moment, or what it's been up to?
Yes. So this news also came out yesterday. There was kind of a bombardment of good news in the space of around 2 hours on crypto Twitter. It was a very exciting time. So X got approval for a license for crypto payments. And we've spoken a few times on the Coin Bureau channel about the potential of Elon Musk rebranding Twitter to X, and from then moving it into more of a financial payment platform where we potentially could see traditional kind of traditional currencies, and then also the adoption and the utility of cryptocurrencies as well, and then what cryptocurrencies they would be. And yesterday, again, one step closer to some good news.
Yeah. So this was this, if I remember rightly, it was a currency transmitter license in Rhode Island, I think.
Correct. Yeah.
And I mean, is X basically going and getting these money transmitter or currency transmitter licenses in every single US state? Are they basically sort of collecting up the 50 they need?
Yes. So I believe we did a video on it, on this 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there was
Yes, we
4
did.
states that had been approved. I think as of today, we're on around 6 states that have been approved,
Okay.
which is a kind of a good news moving forward. And
Yeah.
it's a pretty exciting time because, I mean, Elon has been openly pro-crypto since 2021 across Twitter, now X. And who knows what's going to happen when it comes to being able to use cryptocurrencies in-app. But it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
There was also news in the video, so we'll drop that in the description below if you do want to check it out, of some of the coders of the X platform also integrating the facilitation of cryptocurrencies as a payment method. So while nothing has been confirmed yet, it does seem like we are really opening the portal to X being a financial platform where you can kind of exchange and act as a merchant.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's, yeah, as you say, it's kind of tied into this idea that he wants to make it into a platform a bit like WeChat or something, where you can, where you can pay in app, and these currency transmitter licenses are sort of part and parcel of doing that. I think from what I remember reading about it, I think the received wisdom is that it's going to be sort of mostly, it's going to be fiat payments to start with.
Yeah.
But as I think you said, he wants the developers to be able to integrate crypto, further down the line. So it seems to me it's a bit like these ETF applications, isn't it? It's this sort of potential, bit of good news on the horizon that is always just
glimmer of hope that we need so badly.
It's always just sort of slightly tantalizingly out of reach, but it is getting closer. So yeah, and again, maybe that's the sort of thing. April 2024, maybe we could get all those ETF applications approved. Then we have the halving. Then maybe Elon announces that he's integrating crypto into Twitter, into X, and then everything just goes absolutely bananas.
So if any of the Coin Bureau team are watching, no vacations are allowed the month of April. It's going to be very busy by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
If all of your fortune telling in the crystal ball comes true.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think probably anyone working for Coin Bureau, I would hope, would know that you don't get the month of the halving off. But let's see. Okay, so that was how are we doing for time, by the way? We've been going for sort of half an hour, which is sort of roughly what I would sort of planning to do. A couple more things I think to talk about as well. Oh yes, I wanted to mention Tornado Cash because it's not all good news, unfortunately. So this was the news that Tornado Cash has suffered a setback in court. It's been kind of, the protocol itself has been ruled to be, basically a money transmitter. So the judge has come down. The judge has kind of rejected this this idea that it's, because it's a permissionless protocol, that it can't be sanctioned. And then, of course, we've also had the news that they've sanctioned one of the other developers. So they arrested Alexei Pertsev last year. Was it even the year before? They arrested him a long time ago, didn't they? And then there were the two Roman Semenov and Roman Storm. This is crazy though. One of them was arrested in the United States. And as I understand it, I think he'd gone there under the impression that he was cooperating with the authorities and he'd be safe.
Okay.
And then they nicked him, which just seems, it's just crazy, isn't it? It's just crazy. I mean, how that is going to incentivize anyone to, to work with US authorities if they just kind of lure him over there. Anyhow, so that is a bit of bad news, unfortunately, because it's kind of generally bad news for, for DeFi, for crypto in general. There's a good quote here from DL News, which is a good crypto news site, relatively new one, I should say. Quote, if the DOJ can get the money transmitter classification to stick, it might put other DeFi protocols which facilitate token transfers, such as decentralized exchanges and lending protocols, in jeopardy.
Ouch.
So I know this Tornado Cash thing is something that's been dragging on for quite a while now. Again, it's one of those stories. Basically, whenever you get any sort of court action in the US, you know that the story involved will just run on until the end of time, until everyone's thoroughly bored with it. So I know that there may be a bit of fatigue over the whole Tornado Cash thing, folks, but it is important. It is an important story to watch because the outcome of it could have big implications for all of crypto. So there we are. And then there was also, whilst I'm on the topic of bad news, there was also something about NFTs this week as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, so not actually bad news necessarily, but it was just kind of an interesting touch in because we've not really had a lot of NFT news coverage recently, but Masari had a pretty interesting report out that was saying that during kind of Q2, we had a very strong performance of Bitcoin NFTs, surpassing Polygon and Solana in NFT sell volume, which I thought was pretty interesting because, you know, typically we're seeing when markets subside a little bit, the NFT price action in the markets are pretty slow. And Bitcoin NFTs could grow to $4.5 billion by March 2025.
Wow.
Which was a number that surprised me, actually. It was higher than expected. So what's your take on the kind of NFT market? Do you have any NFTs? Did you get on board there?
No, I did dip my toes in that market along with everyone else. Yeah, NFT fatigue is has really set in, isn't it? I'm still a believer though in NFTs. Like, I think weirdly, I'm also a believer in the metaverse as well. I know a lot of people will be kind of throwing up onto their computer, onto their keyboards when when I say that. But NFTs and the metaverse, I think, are two, you know, transformational technologies that have gone massively out of fashion. And partly that's because of the crypto bear market.
Yeah.
Partly, I think, because it's, you know, things like AI have come along and sort of stolen their thunder. People have found some other shiny new toy. And so I think both of those have kind of contributed to the fact that sort of no one is really talking much about NFTs, and particularly the metaverse at the moment now. But I am convinced that both are going to be a big part of the future. And I think that it's probably going to be a case, you know, it's not sort of all going to happen all at once. But I think within, you know, a few years' time, within sort of 10, 20 years' time, they will be so kind of fundamental to our online lives. And it will be like, wow, you know, it'll almost be, I think, a bit like the internet. It'll be sort of hard to imagine life without them because we'll be using them so much. And I think with things like NFTs, perhaps one of the keys to people using NFTs is not actually knowing that they're using NFTs. I don't think most people care.
I have to agree with you. I went to LA Blockchain Week last November, and this was at the height of the kind of FTX, I think, had just happened. So markets were a little bit kind of down in the dumps. But the creator economy ripple effect that NFTs still bring, there was music artists there that had generated quite a big crowd. There was kind of basketball players that had turned up. There was kind of really impressive people from the sport and the music industry that had come to this blockchain conference to talk about how they were investing all their time and energy into these platforms because of the underlying technology behind it and what it can bring. And I think sometimes in the industry we forget, because we are constantly seeing the technology, that there are other kind of facilitators and factors that blockchain can bring in beneficially ways. So I actually I agree with you that NFTs as a whole, for the music industry, for the sport industry, there'll be different use cases coming up in the next few years.
Yeah, don't write them off, folks. But that doesn't mean that the floor price of the Bored Apes is suddenly going to pick up. That could be, you know, that might not ever happen. I'm not sure if we'll see another NFT craze like we did in 2021. But I think there's so much potential for them and for the metaverse as well. So yeah, keep a close eye on those. So before we sign off for the day, because I think we've kind of taken up enough of your time for a Wednesday morning or evening or afternoon or night, wherever you are. I want to mention a couple more things. Firstly, don't forget, NFA Live is going ahead tomorrow as well. It is going to be on Rob's channel on Digital Asset News. So Rob will be hosting Ben Cowan and myself. I imagine you can guess what we'll be talking about. Probably, you know, Grayscale related, ETF related, but we'll be talking about a few other things as well. Ben will obviously want to talk about Bitcoin dominance because he's Ben. I saw he was tweeting about that in the wake of Grayscale thing, how Bitcoin dominance was back up around 50%. So Ben will be in a fantastically good mood tomorrow. So that in itself is a reason not to miss NFA Live. So that will be on Digital Asset News. That will be at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, which is 5 p.m. Gulf time, which is where we are. So don't miss that. And the other thing I wanted to mention is Token 2049 again. because I'm going to that with some of the Coin Bureau team. I'll just share my screen here because they've been adding a few sort of more speakers recently. It is quite a lineup of speakers. So if you are planning to be in Singapore in mid-September, 13th, 14th, I think it is. If you are planning to be in Singapore, then do drop by Token 2049 and catch some of these people. As you can see on the screen, Balaji CZ is speaking remotely, I believe. Arthur Hayes, how about that? Joe Lubin, a real OG there. Daniel Ricciardo, F1 driver. Not sure what he's going to have to say.
Fast cars, fast market movements, potato, you know? If you're brave enough to be an F1 driver, you're brave enough to invest in crypto, maybe.
There we are. There we are. And some other, I noticed Sam Altman is speaking as well.
Oh.
So presumably about WorldCoin. So that'd be interesting. Various other people as well. Yatsu from Animoca Brands. He's a fascinating guy. Nick Carter. Alessandro Del Piero, football legend. Again, not quite sure what he'll have to say about crypto, but I mean, it'll be worth it to find out, won't it? So yeah, I'm going to be at Token 2049 along with some of the team. Jessica, you're going to be holding the fort back here, aren't you?
I'm going to be holding the fort here. I'll be seeing what's going on in Token 2049 and keeping an eye on what you're up to, and then also bringing you guys some of the interesting news and ongoings from the crypto space. So no doubt while you're away, suddenly big news will break, everything cool.
You'll just have to hold the fort.
You just don't know with this space. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, you can never. I saw a great, I think it was a tweet today. I saw a great tweet from someone saying like, earlier this week, nothing was happening. And then suddenly it just goes crazy with the Grayscale news. And it was like, you can never take your eyes off this space for a moment, which I loved. I can't remember who it was said that, but yeah, it was really, it's so true. It's so true. Someone saying Pierre Gasly too. Crypto is deep into F1 branding and advertising. Yeah, that's true. I think Binance and is it Bybit are sponsoring race cars now. I did see. I caught about 5 minutes of a Grand Prix a few weeks ago when I was in a bar with a couple of friends, and I noticed lots of crypto sort of branding there, crypto.com and things like that. So yeah, okay, all right. Well, that's about it for today, guys. So I will be back tomorrow on NFA Live with Rob and Ben. We've got lots more videos coming up for you in the pipes as well. The other thing is Twitter Space. I'm hosting a Twitter Space with. Now, this is on Friday. Now, this is going to be at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. That's 8 p.m. Gulf time. So it's going to be quite a late one for me. But me and Dumpling, our co-host, we are going to be talking to the one, the only Charles Hoskinson of Cardano. He's very kindly agreed to come on a space with us. As you know, we started hosting Twitter Spaces a couple of weeks ago. We've had a couple of fascinating discussions on regulation and CBDCs. CBDCs was last week. This week, in conversation with Charles Hoskinson himself, hopefully broadcasting live from warm and sunny Colorado. So let us know in the comments if there's anything in particular that you'd like us to ask Charles. We'll be talking obviously about Cardano, all the ins and outs with that. We'll be talking about, I want to talk to him about Bison and aliens personally as well. I know he's big into both of those. So yeah, so keep a lookout for that. Check out our Twitter as well, because we're going to have more information about that. I'll be tweeting about that later this week. So yeah, Friday is Twitter Space in conversation with Charles Hoskinson, Cardano founder and general all-round crypto legend. Ask Charles for his Netflix document. Oh yeah, I did see this. There is, yeah, I think Charles is doing a Netflix documentary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which well, that would be enough to get me to renew my Netflix subscription, certainly. Cool. Okay. Ask him how much land he owns. Yeah, a lot. Cool. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Like I say, we'll be back next week. Plenty more content coming your way. Enjoy the rest of your week. We're over the hump. We're on the slope to the weekend now. It's all good. Jessica, thanks for joining.
Thank you. Great topics today. A lot to talk about. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in as well. And, Guy, thank you for having me once again.
My pleasure. Good to have you. And yeah, nice to talk about some good news for a change. So we will see you again soon. Cheers, guys. Okay. And